I stood frozen in my own driveway, keys to a brand new Lexus dangling from my trembling hand, watching through our living room window as my wife of 8 years sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by documents I'd never seen before, bank statements, legal papers, and photographs that made my blood run cold. She wasn't cheating. What she was doing was so much worse, and when she finally looked up and saw me standing there, the expression on her face told me everything. Our entire marriage had been a lie, and I was about to lose everything I'd worked for my entire life. But here's what really destroyed me 3 days earlier. She'd looked me in the eyes over breakfast and said 5 words that should have been my warning. "I'm so proud of you, Daniel." Before we dive in, if you're hooked already, hit that subscribe button because what happens next will leave you absolutely speechless. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. My name is Daniel Reeves, and until that October afternoon, I thought I had it all figured out. I'm a 42-year-old software architect for a healthcare tech company in Charlotte, North Carolina. Not flashy, rich, but comfortable. The kind of comfortable where you can surprise your wife with a luxury sedan without checking your bank account first. My wife, Veronica, was 39, worked as a freelance graphic designer from our home office, and had this way of making our red brick colonial feel warm even on the coldest Carolina mornings. We'd met at a coffee shop near Davidson College 11 years ago. I was there debugging code on a Saturday. She was sketching logo concepts in a worn moleskin notebook. Our first conversation lasted 4 hours. 6 months later, I proposed at the same table. 3 years after that, we bought the house on Pinewood Drive with the big maple tree out front that turned brilliant orange every fall. No kids yet. Veronica always said she wanted to wait until her design business was more established. I'd learned not to push. Marriage, I'd discovered, was about patience and trust. That Tuesday morning started like any other. October sunlight streamed through our kitchen windows as I scrambled eggs, while Veronica made her signature vanilla coffee. The whole house smelled like a bakery. She wore my old Duke sweatshirt, the navy one with the frayed cuffs. Her dark hair pulled into a messy bun. "Big presentation today?" she asked, sliding onto the bar stool. "Just the quarterly review," I said, plating the eggs. "Should be done by 3. Thought I might leave early. Maybe grab steaks for dinner?" Sounds perfect. She smiled that smile, the one that still made my chest tight after 8 years. "You work too hard, you know that?" says the woman who was up until midnight redesigning the Carmichael Dental logo. She laughed, reaching for the hot sauce. Fair point. That's when she said it. "I'm so proud of you, Daniel." I remember pausing mid-bite, fork halfway to my mouth. It wasn't weird. Veronica said supportive things all the time. But something in her voice, some quality I couldn't name, made me look up. Her eyes were bright, almost glassy, fixed on me with an intensity that felt off. "You okay?" I asked. "Perfect," she said quickly. "Just in a grateful mood, I guess. We're lucky, aren't we, to have this life?" "We are," I agreed, still watching her. She changed the subject to the Johnsons' Halloween party next week, and the moment passed. But it lingered in the back of my mind as I drove to work, my Audi humming through the tree-lined streets of our neighborhood. I should have known then. Should have asked more questions. The presentation went smoothly. By 2:30, my boss Sharon was wrapping up, praising our team's progress on the hospital management platform. I checked my phone. Veronica had texted an hour ago. "Working on a surprise project today. Love you," with a heart emoji. That's when I got the idea. Veronica had been driving her Honda CR-V for 9 years. It was reliable, sure, but it was also scraping 140,000 miles and making noises that our mechanic, Hank, described as concerning. She never complained that wasn't her style, but I'd caught her scrolling through car listings late at night, always closing her laptop when I walked in. The Lexus dealership was 10 minutes from my office. I'd driven past it 1,000 times. Why not? We could afford it. She deserved it. 2 hours later, I signed the paperwork on a pearl-white Lexus RX, $350 with caramel leather interior, exactly what she'd admired at the auto show 6 months ago, though she probably thought I'd forgotten. The salesman, a friendly guy named Kevin, tied a massive red bow to the hood and grinned. "She's gonna love it, man." My wife cried when I surprised her with a car. "That's the goal," I said, picturing Veronica's face. The drive home felt electric. It was barely 4:30. She wouldn't expect me for another hour. I practiced my entrance. I'd park the Lexus in the driveway, walk in casually, act like nothing was different, then hand her the keys and watch her reaction. Our neighborhood looked perfect in the golden October light. The Hendersons were raking leaves. Mrs. Chen next door waved from her porch. Everything was so normal. I pulled into our driveway and killed the engine, adrenaline buzzing through my veins. Veronica's CRV sat in its usual spot. All the lights were on in the house. She was definitely home. Perfect. I grabbed the keys, climbed out, and that's when I glanced toward the living room window. And everything stopped. Veronica was sitting on our living room floor. Not on the couch, not at her desk, on the actual hardwood floor in the middle of the room, surrounded by what looked like papers. Stacks and stacks of documents spread in a semicircle around her. Even from the driveway, I could see manila folders, white pages, what looked like photographs. She was holding something, a paper, studying it intensely. Her face was serious, focused in a way I'd never seen. Not upset, not emotional. Focused. Like she was working on something. Like she was planning something. My hand, still holding the Lexus keys, went slack. I should have walked in right then. Should have knocked on the door, shown her the car, laughed about whatever paperwork mess she was dealing with, but something in my gut twisted. I stood there, partially hidden behind the Lexus, watching my wife through our own window like some kind of spy. It felt ridiculous, paranoid, but I couldn't move. She picked up another document. This one looked official, with a logo or seal at the top, and compared it to a photograph. Then she wrote something in a notebook, methodical, precise. My heart started pounding, for reasons I couldn't explain. What was she doing? The rational part of my brain offered explanations. Taxes, organizing files, a design project that required research. But none of those explained why she was on the floor, why she looked so secretive, why she hadn't mentioned any of this. I pulled out my phone, texting her, "Hey, leaving now. Home in 30. Love you." Through the window, I watched her phone light up on the coffee table. She glanced at it, read the message, then too quickly began gathering the documents, shoving them into folders, stacking the folders, standing up. Within 90 seconds, the floor was clear. She carried the folders out of the living room toward her office, I assumed, and disappeared from view. When she came back, she was carrying her laptop, settling onto the couch, opening it like she'd been working there all afternoon. Like nothing had happened. I stood in my own driveway, keys to a $52,000 car in my hand, trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. Why would she hide papers from me? What was in those folders that required such urgency to conceal? And why did I suddenly feel like a stranger to my own wife? I waited 5 minutes before going inside, trying to compose my face into something resembling excitement. The Lexus sat gleaming in the driveway behind me, a monument to my ignorance. "Hey!" I called out, pushing through the front door with forced cheerfulness. Veronica looked up from the couch, laptop balanced on her knees, looking perfectly relaxed. "You're home early. I thought you said 30 minutes? Traffic was light." I lied, studying her face for any sign of the woman I'd seen 90 seconds ago. Nothing. Just my wife, smiling, normal. "What have you been up to?" "Oh, just working on that logo redesign. It's fighting me today." She gestured at her screen, which did indeed show some kind of dental office logo. "How was your day?" "Good." "Great." Actually, I moved toward her, heart still hammering. "Hey, can you come outside for a second? I want to show you something." Her eyes widened slightly, excitement or fear. I couldn't tell. "Show me what?" "It's a surprise." She set her laptop aside, and I watched her face carefully as she followed me to the door. When she stepped onto the porch and saw the Lexus, complete with its ridiculous red bow, her reaction was perfect. "Oh my God," she whispered, hand flying to her mouth. "Daniel, is that yours?" I finished. "I know you've been looking. I know the CRV is on its last legs. I wanted to surprise you." She turned to me, and there were actual tears in her eyes. Real ones. She threw her arms around my neck, and I felt her body shake slightly. "I can't believe you did this. Daniel, this is too much." "Nothing's too much for you," I said, holding her, trying to feel what I should feel, happy, proud, connected. Instead, all I could think about were those folders, those documents, the way she'd scrambled to hide them. "Want to take it for a drive?" I asked. "Absolutely." We drove through the neighborhood. Veronica gushing about the leather seats, the sunroof, the way the steering felt. She seemed genuinely thrilled. We stopped at a lookout point near the lake where we used to go on dates, and she kissed me with what felt like real passion. "Thank you," she whispered against my lips. "You're the best husband in the world. You'd tell me if something was wrong, right?" The words came out before I could stop them. She pulled back slightly, searching my face. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. You just seemed—" "I don't know. Stressed lately?" "I'm not stressed," she said, laughing lightly. "I'm the opposite of stressed. I have an amazing husband who just bought me a dream car. I'm the luckiest woman alive." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. We had steaks that night like I'd planned. She opened a bottle of expensive wine. We ate on the back deck even though it was getting chilly, wrapped in blankets, watching the stars come out. She told me about her upcoming projects, asked about my work, laughed at my stories about the dysfunctional project managers. Everything was perfect, except I couldn't stop thinking about the papers, the urgency in her movements, the way she'd cleared everything in 90 seconds flat. That night, after Veronica fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I'm not a jealous person. I'm not paranoid. I've never been the type to check phones or demand passwords. Trust was the foundation of our marriage, we'd always said that. But something was wrong. Every instinct I had was screaming it. Around 2 a.m., I carefully slid out of bed. Veronica didn't stir. She was a heavy sleeper, especially after wine. I padded down the hallway toward her office, my bare feet silent on the hardwood. Her office door was closed. It was never closed. I stood there in my pajamas, hand on the doorknob, having a full internal debate. This was a violation. If she found out, it would damage us, maybe destroy us. But what if she was in trouble? What if she needed help and was too proud or scared to ask? I opened the door. The office looked normal. Her Mac sat dark on the desk. Design books lined the shelves. Sketches covered the bulletin board. Everything in its place, except the filing cabinet in the corner, the one we used for taxes and insurance documents. The bottom drawer was slightly open. I crossed the room, knelt down, and pulled the drawer fully open. Inside were the manila folders I'd seen earlier. 6 of them, each labeled with what looked like case numbers. Account 4782. Property File A. Transfer Doc Set. My hands shook as I pulled out the first folder. Inside were bank statements. But not from our joint checking account or our savings. These were from an account at a bank I didn't recognize, First Southern Trust. The account holder was listed as V. Reeves. Veronica had a secret bank account. The balance made my stomach drop. $247,000. I frantically flipped through the statements. Regular deposits over the past 3 years, small amounts, at first $500 here, $1,000 there, then larger sums. $5,000, $10,000. The most recent deposit, dated just 5 days ago, was for $15,000. Where the hell was this money coming from? I grabbed the second folder. Property documents. A deed to a house in Asheville 2 hours away, purchased 18 months ago for $285,000. The buyer, Veronica Reeves. My wife owned a house I didn't know about. The third folder contained photographs. I spread them on the floor, hands trembling so badly I could barely hold them. Pictures of me. At work, getting coffee, walking to my car, at the gym, time-stamped and dated, going back months. Dozens of them, taken from a distance with a long lens. Someone had been following me, or Veronica had been following me. The fourth folder was insurance documents, life insurance policies. 3 of them all taken out within the past 2 years. Total value, $1.8 million, with me as the insured, and Veronica as the sole beneficiary. I sat on the floor of my wife's office at 2:30 in the morning, surrounded by evidence that my marriage was a lie, and tried to breathe. Think, Daniel. Think. The secret bank account? The house in Asheville? The surveillance photos? The life insurance policies? This wasn't an affair. This was something more calculated, more chilling. My wife was either planning to disappear or planning for me to disappear. I heard a noise in the hallway and froze. Footsteps. Soft but approaching. I frantically shoved the folders back into the drawer, pushed it closed, not all the way, exactly as I'd found it, and stood up just as the office door swung open. Veronica stood in the doorway in her sleep shirt, hair messy, eyes squinting in the darkness. "Daniel? What are you doing?" My mouth went dry. I couldn't sleep. Thought I'd check work email. She looked at me, then at her desk, then back at me. The moment stretched like taffy. "On my computer?" Her voice was soft, but there was something underneath it. Something sharp. "I didn't want to wake you by turning on the light in our room," I said, amazed at how steady my voice sounded. "My phone died. Sorry. Should have just grabbed the laptop from the living room." Another pause. She was evaluating me, deciding whether to believe me. "It's okay," she finally said, stepping into the room. "I just woke up, and you weren't there. Got worried." She moved closer, wrapped her arms around my waist, rested her head on my chest. "Come back to bed?" I held her, feeling her heartbeat against mine, wondering which one of us was the better liar. "Yeah," I whispered. "Let's go back to bed." We lay there in the darkness, her breathing eventually slowing into sleep. Mine never did. By the time pale October dawn crept through our curtains, I'd made a decision. I wasn't confronting her. Not yet. Because if Veronica was planning something dangerous, then showing my hand would be the worst possible move. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. I needed proof, and I needed to protect myself. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. "You okay?" Sharon asked, concern in her voice. "You never take sick days. Just a stomach thing," I lied. "I'll be back tomorrow." Veronica kissed me goodbye, told me to rest, and then drove off in her new Lexus to meet with a client, or so she said. The moment her car disappeared around the corner, I was back in her office. I photographed everything. Every bank statement, every property document, every insurance policy. I used my phone's document scanner to create clean PDF copies, then uploaded them to a secure cloud account she didn't know about. The surveillance photos were the worst. There were 43 of them. Me at the grocery store, me at the gas station, me leaving the gym. Someone, Veronica, a private investigator, had documented my routines with disturbing precision. Why? I found something else in the bottom of the drawer. A burner phone. One of those cheap flip phones you can buy at any convenience store. It was powered off. I turned it on, my heart racing. 3 contacts, P, M, and lawyer. 12 text messages in the sent folder, all to M, all deleted, but still in the trash. He doesn't suspect anything. Timeline moved to November. "Papers ready. Just need the trigger. I know this is hard, but it's the only way. We can finally be together once this is done." My vision blurred. I read that last message 3 times. We can finally be together once this is done. So, there was someone else. An affair, after all, but not the kind I could simply be angry about. This was bigger. This was… what? Fraud? Embezzlement? Was she planning to fake my death? Stage an accident? The insurance policies suddenly made horrifying sense. I heard a car in the driveway and nearly jumped out of my skin. I shoved everything back, powered off the burner phone, closed the drawer, and bolted out of the office just as the front door opened. Veronica walked in carrying takeout bags. "I thought you might want soup," she called out cheerfully. "Brought you tomato basil from Panera." I met her in the kitchen, trying to look like a sick person grateful for soup instead of a terrified man who'd just discovered his wife might be plotting his death. "You're the best," I managed. She set down the bags and felt my forehead. "You do feel a little warm. Go lie down. I'll bring this to you." I spent the afternoon in bed, pretending to sleep while Veronica worked in her office. Every sound made me jump. Every footstep made me wonder if she knew I'd been digging. Around 4 p.m., her phone rang. I heard her answer, "Hey, yeah, hold on." Then her office door closed. I crept out of bed and pressed my ear to the door. Her voice was muffled, but I caught fragments. "Don't know if I can wait until…" "Yes, I understand. But Daniel's been acting strange. What if he…" My blood turned to ice. "No, we stick to the plan." November 15th. Just like we discussed. November 15th. That was less than 3 weeks away. What happened on November 15th? That night, I made my own plan. I couldn't go to the police with what? Suspicious documents and fragments of a phone call? They'd tell me to come back when something actually happened. If something happened. If I was still alive to come back. I couldn't confront Veronica, not until I knew exactly what I was dealing with. So I did the only thing I could think of. I called my brother. Tyler lived in Denver, worked in corporate security, and was the most level-headed person I knew. We weren't super close, maybe talked once a month, but this wasn't something I could handle alone. "You're sure about what you saw?" he asked after I'd laid out everything. "Tyler," I held the documents in my hands. "The bank statements are real. The property deed is real. The insurance policies are real. And the text messages mentioned November 15th specifically?" "Yes." He was quiet for a long moment. "Okay, here's what you do. First, you act completely normal. Do not let her know you know. Second, you document everything, every interaction, every conversation. Keep your phone recording if you have to. Third, you move money. Not all of it, but enough that you're protected if she drains the accounts." "You think she'd do that?" "Daniel. She has a secret bank account with $250,000 in it. She's capable of more than you think." He was right. The woman I'd married, the woman I thought I knew, was capable of things I'd never imagined. Over the next week, I became an actor in my own life. I went to work, came home, kissed my wife, made small talk, and pretended everything was fine. Meanwhile, I quietly moved $75,000 from our joint savings to a separate account. I made copies of every important document. I installed a hidden camera in our garage, the kind used for home security, angled so it would catch anyone tampering with my car. Because I couldn't shake the feeling that November 15th involved an accident. Veronica seemed normal, cheerful even. She made my favorite meals. She suggested we start planning a vacation to Hawaii in December. She even brought up the idea of finally trying for kids. "I've been thinking," she said one night over dinner, "maybe we shouldn't wait anymore. You'd be such a great dad." I looked at her across the table, this beautiful woman who'd shared my bed for 8 years, and wondered if she was already spending the life insurance money in her mind. "Let's talk about it after the holidays," I said carefully. She nodded, but something flickered across her face. Disappointment? Frustration? November 12th arrived. 3 days to go. That's when I decided to follow her. She said she had a client meeting in Huntersville, a suburb about 30 minutes north. She left at 9 a.m. in the Lexus. I gave her a 5-minute head start, then followed in a rental car, a gray Camry I'd picked up that morning, telling Veronica my car needed servicing. She didn't go to Huntersville. She drove south, toward Asheville, just like I'd suspected. 2 hours later, I watched from down the street as she pulled into the driveway of a small craftsman house with blue shutters. The house from the property documents. Her secret house. A man came out to meet her. He was tall, maybe late 40s, with silver-threaded dark hair and an easy smile. Veronica practically ran to him, and he caught her in an embrace that made my stomach turn. Not a friendly hug. Something more. They kissed. Long and deep. Like lovers who'd been apart too long. Then, they went inside together. I sat in that rental Camry for 45 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to kick down the door and confront them both. Part of me wanted to drive away and never look back. Part of me wanted to understand. I chose understanding. I approached the house carefully, staying low, moving around to the side where I could see through a window. The living room was sparsely furnished, a couch, a coffee table, a TV. They sat close together, his arm around her shoulders, looking at something on a laptop. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their body language told a story. Intimacy, planning, partnership. Then Veronica said something, and the man laughed, kissing the top of her head. She looked up at him with an expression I'd never seen on her face, pure adoration. She never looked at me like that. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. I took photos, dozens of them. Then I drove back to Charlotte in a fog, arriving home 2 hours before Veronica would. I'd seen enough. Now I needed to know who he was. I hired a private investigator that afternoon, a woman named Janet Kowalski who came highly recommended and asked very few questions. I gave her the address in Asheville and the photos I'd taken. I need to know who he is and what his connection is to my wife, I told her. Janet called me back 6 hours later. His name is Malcolm Thorne, she said. He's a real estate developer based in Asheville. 48 years old, divorced, no kids. And here's the interesting part. He's been in a business partnership with your wife for the past 2 years. What kind of business partnership? Property investment? They've been buying and flipping houses together under an LLC called VT Properties. That house in Asheville? It's just one of 7 properties they own jointly. My mind reeled. 7 properties? Worth about $2 million combined, from what I can find. They've been quite successful, actually. Buying distressed properties, renovating, selling for profit. Your wife has a good eye for design, apparently. Thorne provides the capital and business expertise. Is it legal? The business? Completely. But the fact that she never told you about it? That's between you two. After I hung up, I sat in my car in the office parking lot, trying to process. So Veronica wasn't planning to kill me. She was just, what? Building a secret life? Planning to leave me? But then what was November 15th? And why the surveillance photos? Why the insurance policies? I needed answers. And I needed them before November 15th arrived. November 14th. I woke up that morning, knowing I couldn't wait any longer. Whatever was going to happen tomorrow, I needed to be prepared. I took the day off work again. Veronica mentioned she had errands to run, asked if I needed anything. Just some peace and quiet, I said. Got a headache? She kissed my forehead. Feel better. I'll be back around 3. The moment she left, I went back to her office. This time, I wasn't just looking, I was tearing the place apart. In the back of her closet, behind a box of old design portfolios, I found what I was looking for, a leather folder labeled November 15. Inside were divorce papers, fully completed, signed by Veronica, ready to be filed. There was also a letter, handwritten on cream stationery. Daniel, by the time you read this, you'll know. I'm sorry for the deception, but I couldn't see another way. I've tried to tell you 100 times over the past year, but I couldn't find the words. I couldn't hurt you. I don't love you anymore. I haven't for a while. I'm in love with Malcolm. We met when I was consulting on one of his renovation projects 3 years ago, and what started as friendship became something more. I fought it for a long time. You're a good man, Daniel. You've never done anything wrong, but the heart wants what it wants. The business we've built together, the properties, the life we've created, it's real. It's stable. And it's what I want. I want the person I love to also be my business partner. I want to wake up excited about my work and my relationship. I don't want to feel guilty anymore for not being the wife you deserve. Tomorrow, I'm filing for divorce. I'm moving to Asheville permanently. The house here is yours. I'll sign it over completely. The accounts are split fairly, you'll see. I've made sure you're taken care of. I know you'll hate me. I know you'll feel betrayed. You have every right to both. But I couldn't live a lie anymore. I hope someday you understand. V. I read the letter 3 times, each word hitting like a physical blow. She was leaving me. Not killing me. Not destroying me financially. Just leaving. And she'd been planning it for months, maybe years, documenting everything to ensure a clean break. The surveillance photos weren't for murder, they were probably to establish my patterns, to make sure she knew when I'd be home or away. The insurance policies were likely legitimate investments she'd made, not sinister plots. Everything I'd feared, every dark scenario I'd imagined, was wrong. She just didn't love me anymore. Somehow, that hurt worse than any of the alternatives. I was sitting on the couch, letter in hand, when Veronica came home at 3:15. She walked in carrying grocery bags, started to say something cheerful, then saw my face, saw the letter. Her expression crumbled. "Daniel, November 15th, I said quietly. "Tomorrow. You are going to file divorce papers tomorrow." She set down the bags slowly, her hands shaking. "How did you—" "I've known for 2 weeks, Veronica. The bank account, the house in Asheville, Malcolm, all of it." The color drained from her face. "You followed me. You were hiding a whole second life from me." "Yeah, I followed you." She moved toward me, tears starting to fall. "I was going to tell you." "When?" My voice cracked. "When were you going to tell me? After you filed the papers? After you moved? Or were you just going to leave a note?" "I tried," she cried. "Daniel, I tried to tell you so many times. At breakfast, at dinner, in bed at night, the words would get to my throat and I'd choke on them because I knew how much it would hurt you. So you thought lying was better? Building an entire business with another man was better? Letting me buy you a fucking car while you planned your exit was better?" She flinched. "The car god? Daniel, when you surprised me with that car, I almost told you everything right then. I felt so guilty. That's why I've been so emotional lately. That's why I said I was proud of you. Because you are a good man, and you deserve better than what I've done." "You're right," I said, standing up. "I do deserve better. I deserve a wife who doesn't spend 3 years building a secret life. I deserve honesty. I deserve respect. I know." She was sobbing now, mascara running down her face. "I know, and I hate myself for it. But Daniel, I haven't been happy. Not really. Not for a long time. And neither have you, if you're honest." That stopped me cold. "What? When's the last time we laughed together? Really laughed? When's the last time we talked about something meaningful instead of logistics and schedules? When's the last time you looked at me like you used to?" "That's not—" "It is," she interrupted. "We've been going through the motions for years. Comfortable, safe, but not passionate, not connected. And I'm sorry, but I want more than comfortable. Life is too short for comfortable." I stared at her, this woman I'd built a life with, and realized she was right. We'd been roommates pretending to be soulmates for longer than either of us wanted to admit. "You still should have told me," I said finally. "You should have given me the respect of a conversation before you built an escape plan." "You're right," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." We stood there in our living room, the living room where we'd hosted friends, celebrated birthdays, watched movies, made 1,000 memories, and mourned what we'd lost. Or maybe what we'd never really had. The next day, Veronica filed the divorce papers. I didn't fight it. What was the point? You can't force someone to love you, and trying would only make us both miserable. We agreed to a mediator instead of lawyers. The settlement was, as she'd promised, fair. She got the Asheville house and the business properties with Malcolm. I got our Charlotte house and the majority of our joint accounts. Since most of my income had funded them, we split the retirement accounts down the middle. The whole process took 3 months. During that time, we lived in the same house but separate lives. She took the guest room. We were painfully polite to each other, like strangers sharing an Airbnb. Some nights I'd hear her crying through the wall and I'd want to comfort her. Other nights I'd sit in the garage staring at the Lexus I'd bought her and wonder how I'd missed all the signs. Malcolm, to his credit, never contacted me, never gloated. Janet informed me that he was a decent guy. From what she could tell, not some predator who'd stolen my wife, just a man who'd fallen in love with a woman who was already checked out of her marriage. Veronica moved to Asheville the week after the divorce was finalized in February. She took the Lexus, some furniture, her design equipment, and memories I'd never be part of. The house felt enormous and empty without her. I spent the first few weeks in a fog, going to work, coming home, eating takeout, watching Netflix without seeing it. My friends rallied around me. My brother flew out for a weekend. Sharon gave me as much space as I needed. Slowly, I started to rebuild. I joined a gym, a different one, where memories didn't lurk around every corner. I reconnected with my college buddy Marcus, who invited me to his weekly basketball game. I started therapy, which I should have done years ago. And I started to realize something. Veronica wasn't the villain in this story, and I wasn't the victim. We were just two people who'd grown apart and handled it badly. She'd been a coward about communication, yes. But I'd been oblivious, coasting on comfort instead of cultivating connection. We'd both failed our marriage in different ways. In March, I got a text from Veronica. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I saw photos from one of your basketball games on Marcus's Instagram. You looked happy, really happy. I'm glad." I stared at that message for a long time before responding. "Thank you. I hope you're happy too." "I am," she wrote back. "Malcolm and I are opening a design-build firm together. And Daniel, I'm sorry. For all of it. You deserved better." "So did you," I typed. "Take care of yourself, Veronica." That was the last time we communicated. By summer, I was dating again casually. Nothing serious, just remembering what it felt like to be pursued and desired. I sold the Audi and bought a Jeep, something fun and impractical that made me feel young. I renovated the master bedroom, stripping away every trace of the life Veronica and I had built there. I made new memories in that house. Better memories. And I learned something important. Sometimes the worst thing you can imagine, losing the person you thought you'd spend your life with, turns out to be the thing that sets you free. I don't know what Veronica and Malcolm are doing now. I don't check her social media. I don't ask mutual friends for updates. That chapter is closed. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that October afternoon when I stood in my driveway with keys to a Lexus, watching my wife through the window, and everything changed. I think about how sometimes love isn't enough, how comfort can be a cage, how the bravest thing you can do is admit the truth, even when it destroys what you've built. And I think about how that afternoon, terrible as it was, gave me something unexpected, the chance to start over, the chance to figure out who Daniel Reeves was when he wasn't being someone's husband, the chance to build a life that was mine alone. So that's my story, the surprise that became the worst day of my life, and somehow, eventually, the beginning of something better. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Hit that subscribe button if you want more real stories from real people navigating the messy, complicated business of being human. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had a moment that completely changed your life? I'd love to hear your story. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.